The Kart concept is that you're in a bobsled. And originally, we were gonna have it be a two-person bobsled. But pretty early on, we realized that the scale of the ride just wouldn't accommodate that. So we began working on ideas for just a single rider vehicle that, kind of has a go-kart feel that takes you through the ride.
We had about a dozen iterations of the Kart, probably over a dozen iterations of the Kart. The first one we had was made of wood, and it took us 12 and a half minutes to realize that was a terrible idea.
Michael was the main guy on that. He had the technical know-how. I supported him wherever I could, whether that was cutting pieces or getting materials. But I really relied on Michael.
It had these tiny little plastic casters with no ball bearings in them that just pinched the track, and we tried to run it through the first little curve before the lift hill, and it just got stuck.
I really relied on him to ensure that the Kart would work.
The first ones that we did, when we made it out of wood, we just planned on attaching casters to a little C-shaped wooden box so that you'd have wheels in all three directions that you need: your load wheels, your guide wheels, and your upstop wheels.
Michael is one of the most professional people I've ever worked with. He's one of the smartest people that I know.
One of the versions of the Kart, probably the third or fourth version, jumped the track while I was riding it, which was kind of a devastating moment, at least for morale, because I had no idea what we were gonna do.
I very much like working with Michael.
Where the place where it threw me, I just was sitting on the ground. I landed and I just stopped and stared at the track for a half hour without moving. And Sean came over, and I don't know if he didn't want to bother me or thought I was in some sort of just depression that I was never gonna snap out of. But at that moment, I was like, we have to get a drill press, because the casters, the steel was just so cheap that it couldn't hold welds. So then we went to a drill press, and we kind of arrived at a wheel assembly design that's worked since probably a month, maybe a month and a half, before we had one a thing that went around, because the Kart that is actually rideable is significantly different than the first one that we sent through the track. When I started, I was thinking, we need this kind of range of motion, but we don't need that kind of range of motion. And I was trying to make it as simple as possible, but it turns out that roller coaster karts are actually really, really complicated. You need a lot of range of motion. Your front wheels have to be able to pivot in 3 dimensions. Your back wheels have to pivot in 2 dimensions, or vice versa. And I, at the beginning didn't know that until we finally got one that went through. It got to a point where I just said I just need to write it in. I can't write it in sections. It's not going to be anything like how it actually would be. So it was a little terrifying, but I wasn't really worried about safety things. It was more of just the fact that you're riding something that you've built and you don't know, you've never built anything like that before. So the first time the Kart went around, I thought, it's about dang time.